All right, I want to walk you guys through the process of once again establishing the location of your Maya scene, and then also we're going to download a piece of stock 3D, this extra asset that we can add to our Maya scene to help bring a little bit more character and personification to something like the bowling pin. So I'm actually going to get started by setting the project. I'll click on File, come down to Set Project, select the bowling package and hit Open. All right, now I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to open up the bowling pin rig. All right, so there's our bowling pin, and now I'm going to import the bowling ball rig. All right, so we have both sitting here side by side. Now, you notice there's a little bit of a discrepancy of scale. So I'm going to take the bowling pin and I'm actually going to scale it down so it'd be of a comparable scale to the bowling ball. And now what I'd like to do is I would like to actually download some assets and put some assets on both of these. So I'm just going to spin that bowling ball around here, rotate it 180 degrees on the y-axis, and we'll go from here. So I've already introduced you guys to Turbo Squid. So in Turbo Squid, you can search out models that you would like to include as assets with your Maya scene. So in this particular case, I'm going to look up glasses. All right. Now, when this opens up, you can go ahead and click on the price drop down, set a maximum value of $0. If you're feeling particularly cheap. Now it's going to be kind of the luck of the draw as to what you actually get. So I'm actually going to change this to eyeglasses. All right, here we go. All right, so it looks like there's a whole bunch of free options available to us. And I just want some thick rimmed glasses. All right. Now, once again, we're looking for these types of file types. You want a .ma, you want a .mb, you want a .obj, or you want a .fbx. Any of those will work just fine for your project. Actually, I'm going to go with these glasses. These are really fun. So I'll go ahead and select that model. All right, and I'll just go ahead and hit download. All right, and it's going to take me over to the download menu. So I have an FBX, I have an OBJ. I can click on that little expander and shows additional file formats. It looks like this one. I'm not sure what a 3DM is. It's Rhino. Let's go ahead and download the .fbx. So I'll click on that and have it download. Now, additionally, while that is downloading, there's another asset that I actually purchased once upon a time. Looks like I paid $1 for. It's this World War II German helmet. I'm going to go ahead and download that one as well. And I will hop over to my Finder window. Now, in this Finder window, what I want to do is I want to access my Maya scene. Particularly, I'm going to access the Scenes folder. And in this Scenes folder, maybe I'll create a new folder and call this one Additional Assets. Go ahead and give it a name that makes sense to you. And now I will open up another Finder window and go to my Downloads folder. And so these are the glasses right here. I'm going to just drag those over and drop those in the Additional Assets folder. Then I'm going to expand this helmet that I just downloaded. And I'm going to drag the OBJ over into Additional Assets. You see it also came with a .jpeg. Right, so this is an actual 2D texture that will be applied to that 3D model that I downloaded. So I'm going to actually take that one and put it in my source images folder. All right, so I will create a new folder for it, maybe just call it helmet, and drag that JPEG over into there. And now let's go ahead and hop over into Maya. So now that we're over here, let's go ahead and just click on File, come down to Import, and I'm going to get started by going to my Additional Assets folder, and let's select that helmet.obj and hit Open. All right, so this helmet is opened up right here. It's kind of rotated as per a really awkward orientation, and when it's selected, it's all green. And if I zoom in, you can see why. It's because it's a really high poly model, and that shouldn't cause us any real problems for this particular application. But I do want to kind of play around with the orientation and play around with the location of the pivot relative to the object. So the first thing I'm going to do is, with the helmet itself selected, I'm going to select modify, and I'm going to center that pivot. All right, and that'll put it right in the middle of the object here. Now I'm going to rotate it. Let's see, I'm going to look at this from the front. So I'm going to rotate it like so. And now that I've done that, the orientation, the rotate tool's off a little bit. I can actually right-click on rotate, come down to freeze all, and it's going to zero out that rotation and zero out that handle. And just going to play around with the rotation just a little bit more, so it's the helmet's more or less aligned as per the orientation of my world. So I'll right-click on that, freeze all again, and it'll zero that out. So I'm going to take this helmet and move it up here and put it on top of my bowling pin. All right, so I need to push this back in space just a little bit. Okay, relatively like so. And now what I want to do is I want to apply that 2D texture to this helmet. So I can do that through Hypershade. Hypershade is the material editor here in Maya. So I'm just going to move these objects over so I can see what I'm doing in both workspaces, in my viewport and also in Hypershade. So in Hypershade, if we look and see what we have, by default, with every Maya scene, you're going to see a shader glow material, a particle cloud material, and a Lambert 1 material. All right, that Lambert 1 material is the default material for all Maya scenes. Now, I'm also going to see one for the bowling pin. If I click on it, you can see, start to see some of the applied texture and pattern to this little material viewer. And the same thing with the bowling ball. Now, before we get into actually applying the texture to this, I want to talk a little bit about the material editor. There's 3 basic types of materials that you're going to be utilizing. The first is a Lambert. And so in this list right here, if I just click on Lambert, it's going to add a new instance of that Lambert to my shelf. Now, the Lambert is the default matte material. So this is good for things that are like rubber or paper or would otherwise have a diffused, slightly rough surface. Think even like most clothing has a matte surface to it. So I can add a new instance of that material to my materials shelf. Now if I click on it up here, you notice it's selected in yellow. And that actually opens up those material properties right over here in the property editor. To change the color, all I need to do is click on that swatch, and you have a couple of default swatches right here, or you have a little color picker, and you can kind of play around with that and get a color that you're satisfied with. All right, and then if you want to apply that to something, you middle mouse click on the material, so you get a little plus symbol, and you drag it over and you drop it on whichever object you want it to be applied to in your Maya scene. All right, and so there we go. Now it has that matte kind of blue-green. All right, now the next material I want to talk about is a blend material. So I'll click on it right here. And a blend material is also known as a specular material, meaning that it picks up a nice specular highlight, so it's shiny. It also has a certain degree of reflectivity that's part of its inherent properties. This is a really good material for things like shiny plastic. So I can play around, with choosing what color I want it to be and make it a nice rich red. I could apply that to my bowling pin just by middle mouse click, dragging and dropping, and it will replace that material. Or I could just, if I want to revert it back, I can do Command Z, or I can grab the pin material and bring it and drop it out on the pin. So that's the regular specular material, or blend. And then the third one is an anisotropic material. Now, anisotropic is also specular, it is also reflective, but the difference between it and a blend material is the shape of the highlight. All right, the blend material is always going to produce a highlight that's round. the anisotropic is going to produce a highlight that follows the form of the object. So as we said earlier, this is a good material for plastics. Anisotropic is a good material for metals. So you think, pipes and metal spheres, fenders on cars, that's generally an anisotropic material. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back now to that Lambert 2 material right here. And because this helmet is kind of rusted and really used, it's not going to be shiny and clean. So we'll use that Lambert 2 material as the starting point for its texture. Now, previously we had edited that by clicking on that swatch to bring up the color tool. But this time I'm actually going to click on this little checker box. And what it's going to do is that is going to create an input node that will replace the color. So what's cool is this input node is you have a bunch of different options. You have a regular file, you have a PSD file, you have a whole bunch of proceduralized textures, a ramp, which is essentially a gradient. There's a lot of different things that we can do here. But I'm just going to go ahead and select file because I believe that texture that came with this helmet was a JPEG. So when I select that, it's going to change the little menu right down here, the property editor. It's a file specific menu. Go ahead and click on the little folder, and that's going to bring up an open dialog. I'm going to double click on the helmet, select helmet 1, hit open, and now you get an error. Okay, it looks like it just took a second, but it actually did apply it over here. So now I can come over here, I'll select this, press F so that my camera revolves around it. And there you go. You have your helmet that has a texture now applied to it. So for the moment, I'm going to close out Hypershade. Okay, now it's all fine and dandy that we have this object that's part of this bowling pin, but the problem that we have is when we start animating the bowling pin, bending sideways and forward and backwards and twisting and stuff, the helmet's not doing anything. It's staying in place. It's not dependent on this rig or on this model. So the easiest way to do that is just simple parenting, all right? What I'm going to do is press 4 on my keyboard so we toggle into wireframe mode, all right? And what I want to do is I want to select the material. This is a little hard to see given the mesh density, but I want to select that material, then hold down Shift and select that topmost bone. Now, I'm sorry, you guys probably can't even see that at all, but both of them are selected. Maybe just so you guys get a better sense of what I'm talking about, select the helmet, Shift select this vertebra right here, and because I want to address the colors of the selection. When you have a white selection and a green selection, it means that both objects are selected, but what it does is it communicates to you the order in which it is selected, because that's important when you're setting up parenting. All right, whatever it was selected first will be parented to whatever was selected second, or in this case, whatever is white selected will be parented to whatever is green selected. So once again, I want to select this one. I want to select the topmost vertebra, and I'm going to press P for parent on my keyboard. Now, if I were to open up the outliner and take a look at what I have here, if I select the root control, it's going to select everything and it's part of this rig. Now, there's a little expansion option next to it, and if you just keep expanding that, you see S1, S2, S3, S4. Those are all the different bones that constitute the skeletal structure of this particular object. So if I select S2, it's going to select that bone and everything that's parented to it. S8, that bone and everything that's parented up that chain, coming all the way up here to the 13th bone, which you have this little, this little bone right here at the top, and also our helmet is now parented to that. Now if I press 6 on my keyboard and come over here and select the animation handle, and I start playing around with bending, right and left, forwards and backwards, give it a little bit of a twist. What's cool is that helmet is going to do all that stuff right there along with the skeleton and with the rest of the pin. All right, so going to undo those, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this helmet and I'm going to hit Command D and duplicate it, and I'm going to drag it over here, and we're going to put it on the bowling pin. Now, one problem that we do have is I created a duplicate of this, and that's actually still part of, you know, that parenting structure that we created for the instance of the helmet for the bowling pin. So if you want to unparent something, just select it and hit Shift P, and you see it's going to bump that out of its parenting structure just right into the regular outliner. So now it is independent of everything else. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to scale this up so that this one better fits the scale of the bowling ball. And scoot that back a little bit. It looks so dumb. I love it. Okay, I'm going to rotate the ball down just a hair so we can start to see its eyes. Now, you know, I'm going to scale this helmet just a little bit more. I'm actually going to scale it down this way, so proportionately it fits the bowling ball better. All right, actually I'm going to scale it in like so, too. Okay, so I think that looks a lot better. So now these two look like trench buddies. Okay, so we have a couple different options with the bowling ball. The bowling ball, in terms of it being a rig, is so much simpler than the bowling pin. You know, we don't have a skeletal system. We just have one object that's parented to another object, etc. So the question is, if we were going to animate this bowling ball rolling down an alley, you know, we'd animate the handle first, and then after the handle is animated, we'd get in there and we would actually animate the child rolling, you know, independently of the animation control handle or that driver. But if we take this helmet and we shift select the ball and hit P, and it now parented that helmet to the ball, as the ball is sitting there rolling down the alley, the helmet is going to be rolling with it, and it's probably not going to produce the effect that we want. So I'm going to undo, all right, just a time or two until I've unselected that. What I'm going to, or unparented that rather. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this helmet, shift select the handle, and I'll parent it to the handle instead of the ball. So that way, you know, we still get the benefit of the squash and stretch if we need it. Wherever we move this handle, that helmet is going to go with it. But as the bowling ball is rolling down the lane, it might roll independently of that helmet, kind of like how a wheel would rotate underneath a fender on a bicycle or a motorcycle. All right, and I think that'll end up giving you some better, you know, give you a better effect, essentially. So I hope this has been informative. Please let me know if you have any other questions, and good luck.